Hey, let's watch a pretty funny clip. A bunch of right-wing religious nuts trying to decide how many gods exist.
To their own gods, and then they'd have a contest, and they'd see whose gods was the strongest. Well, it's like that in the Old Testament, in the Bible, as we say, but it's different too, because our God is the only God, right? And that claim, that's revolutionary in ancient times.
I mean, kinda, yeah, but, I mean, it's not like the, Hebrew tribe was the first group of people to think of a monotheistic religion. You got, in Egypt, Akhenaten, who tried to create a monotheistic religion. You got, in Greece, you had, Dianism, which was the worship of Zeus as the only God being, and all others being avatars. Then you got Zoroastrianism, where he made one good god, one bad god, made all the other gods and goddesses either angels or demons, and this is where a lot of the Christians and stuff get the ideas of angels and demons.
I don't think that claim is being made in the Ten Commandments, because when he says there's plenty of gods, the gods are there.
You have to read this in light of that. This is the God, and these are my people, but I'm still everybody's God, right?
Yeah, he's the transcendent God.
That's
and
it.
then there are lower gods, like angels and all these other beings.
There are lower gods in reality, in the human reality, but they're not really gods.
Well, this is...
Wait, there are lower gods in human reality, but they're not really gods. Okay, then why call them gods if they're not an actual god? Does Dennis Prager know how words work?
Things that are worship.
It's a contentious point that I've noticed has been kind of hovering in the background. We've not really settled it. Are we committed to the idea of henotheism, the idea that there's a God, Yahweh, the God of Exodus 3:14 is the top God, but there are, in reality, not just in our human reality, our human imaginations, actual gods? Or are we saying this
You mean in the eyes of the Bible, in the eyes of God, in the eyes of Moses?
All of those, in some sense.
Okay, so one by one, it's a very fair question, but analyzing it, so do we entertain the idea that God himself, the creator of the universe of Genesis 1:1, believes there are other gods, or believes that there are things that people worship and call gods?
Okay, that's funny how he's trying to word that. Oh, are they things that people claim to be gods? No, even, like in the Bible, God says, you shall not have any other gods before me, saying, yeah, there are other gods that exist. And like in Egypt, when the murderous Moses character goes on to his religious battle with the priest, and one of the Egyptian priests turned something into a living creature. So did the Christian God turn the staff into a snake or whatever for the Egyptian priest, or what?
Well, that frames the dilemma nicely. Is it the first or the second? Is it henotheism or monotheism? So there are principalities and powers. There are...
I think the Bible is monotheistic.
That's what I'm
totally with you, Dennis.
Yeah, I know you.
And I know the philosophers of religion make this distinction. But I think the biblical view, the Lord alone is God.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty funny how a supposedly divinely inspired book of the ultimate creator God doesn't divinely inspire everybody to come to the same conclusion. It's everybody has their own interpretation of the Bible, and whoever gets more people to believe them, that's like the quote-unquote version.
Calvin's idea, the human heart is a forge of idols.
Well, the angels are named gods in the
some-
Bible by the text.
Principalities and powers of Paul.
No,
I
but
mean,
even the word,
Yeah,
the
but
word
as
for the
Dennis said,
gods.
people believe in those things. They do today. Reason.
No, but the angels that
Science.
God sends are called gods.
By whom?
I mean, the angels that are in God's service are used. Sometimes they use the same word.
I don't know that that's so in the Hebrew Bible. They're not called gods. The Jews were not always monotheistic.
What about the people who were sent to Abraham?
Yeah, if you look into like ancient history of the Hebrew tribe, they were polytheistic for quite a while, like two or three male gods, and then they had a goddess. Eventually, after some people became king guys, they decided to fuse the three male gods together and kill off anybody who worshipped the goddess.
The
Yes,
angels.
so they were angels. That's correct.
Right, but they're on this. They're on
a divine mission.
Right. So what are they?
Hebrew has no word for angel. What's called angel, malach, is messenger. They're God's messengers.
Mm-hmm. That's what angel means too in Greek.
Yeah.
So is it in the book of Revelation? You guys will know where somebody's going to bow down before emissaries from God, and the command is, "See thou do it not. I am fellow servant." You see. So I think this one God, I think that, and see, it doesn't make as much sense of the universe if there are many gods. Right. You know, in Aristotle and Plato, they're not many gods, right?
I guess, well, then we're faced with a thorny problem under those circumstances is of how we conceptualize transcendent spirits that aren't reflective of the ultimate unity. So what do I mean by that? Well, we could take, this is an oversimplification, but we could take a god like Ares, god of war, say, and I'll do a biological reading of that. You can be ruled by anger. And you might say, well, yeah, but that's not a god. And I say, well, yeah, let's just hold on about that. First of all, it's not only localized in you, it's everywhere. Like the rage in your heart is the same as the rage in your heart and in your heart and in mine. It's maybe the same, or it's a variant on a theme, and it's the same force that could rage in an animal. It's tens of millions of years old. It's a pattern of neurological activation, you might say embodied activation, that's transcendent and immortal, and it can certainly rule you. And it has an ambivalent relationship to something that's transcendent, non-biological, because it fleshes out part of the implicate order. And so, like, is rage a god? Is lust a god? Is fear a god? And I mean, those have already...
Wow, you gotta be truly stupid to claim that, to even, I mean, no, anger is not a god, fear is not a god, lust is not a god. These are just feelings that people feel and deal with. It doesn't mean that there's a god of lust or a goddess of lust or anything like that. And it's like that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But religious nuts like Jordan Peterson, Dennis Prager, and all these others, they love to claim that everybody worships some kind of god. They even claim that, you know, your god can be sports if you're a big sports fan. As long as if you like anything other than the Christian God, you're basically, they claim you have a god of something else, and it's just completely stupid.
They have been deified in many cultures. You certainly have gods of Eros in all sorts of cultures, because that fundamental motivational force, which is a spirit that abides within, but that's also transcendent.
No, it's not a spirit that abides within or anything like that. The people in the ancient past, they made various gods about various things because they were trying to explain the world around them, and they didn't have properly formed sciences to help explain the world. If the Greeks and Romans had the same kind of science knowledge that we do today, they would have done away with their religious beliefs In an instant.
In the biblical sense, I would say.
Well, I don't
They would
know.
be idols.
No.
Well,
But then, no,
yes and no, because they also have a reality,
they're
right?
higher than us.
Yes.
In the Old in the
so
book
then
of Daniel,
it becomes
you have
semantics. Like
in the
it's
book of
semantics.
Daniel,
we are at
I think we're at
semantic.
semantics here.
No.
So you believe that there are principalities that act upon us that are beyond human scale.
Yeah.
But you don't like that we call them gods, let's say.
No, we
Like, would
may
you think
call
that the
them
old
gods.
that
We
the
may
old-
call them gods, but they're not God.
But they have existence.
Yes, that's
Oh, wait,
the
okay.
supernatural.
But they're
So
not
then we're
God.
fine.
There are
we're
supernatural
okay,
powers.
agree.
Okay, so
It's just
basically...
the word. We just
All right.
we don't like the fact that
well,
we use the word God.
Then we are
G.
agreeing in some sense that we're going to reserve the term God for the unity
That's fine.
of...
We can use principality for
In
the
a
other.
God
broad
himself,
sense, everybody
with a
around this
capital
table
G.
is a child of the
That's
Bible.
fine.
And that means we don't like to call many things God.
Right. I guess my objection
Well,
was
we're not-
whether we call them gods or not, they have a proclivity to act like deities.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow, so emotions have the proclivity to act as gods, and this is what Jordan Peterson claims? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's like they just come up with a bunch of dumb bullshit and believe it because it just makes them feel good.
Absolutely. That's the biblical view of idols, though. isn't it?
Yes. Well, but
Powers in which we're making our...
But it's deeper than that in some sense, because you could think of an idol as just an arbitrary human construction. But what I would say instead, it's not. It's the raising of a principality to the highest place. And so you say, well, my God is Priapus, let's say. And many people say that now. In fact, it's almost mandatory to say that. So,
But less than the highest place.
right.
Because
Right, well, it's in...
God with a
Yes,
capital
you could
G.
imagine
Yes.
demonic agencies being recognized by Satanists as God, as something they
Yeah,
would bow down
it's
before
the
and
raised to
worship.
the highest place.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're objecting
There's-
to. is
And
that-
there's no disagreement that
Well, I don't know.
we're
I
not.
want to know, Dennis, what do you think? Like, do you have a sense of the notion of principalities or demons? Is this something that you entertain in your worldview?
Yeah, it's funny watching a bunch of religious nuts trying to decide what gods exist, what's the definition of God and stuff like that, and just trying to decide who Santa Claus fairy tale God is real. These people are just dumb.
So
We're giving you the hard questions today, Dennis.
yes, indeed, and I'm honored. Is it your Dennis or your?
Well, you're
as
the
I
one,
understand,
you're sitting
Jewish.
here, so I'm asking you, and you can answer the way you want to answer.
I'm a strict monotheist. There's one God, end of issue. There are no demons. Even I will say though, to my own shock, the last years in the Western world have opened me up for the first time to the belief that there may be a devil.
You're walking around. The demons are walking around in the street now.
I'm not kidding. I wish I were. There's no levity to what I'm saying, but it is almost impossible to explain the rejection of what is good and the celebration of what is wrong.
Yeah, right. The rejection of what is good and the celebration of what is wrong. Yeah, that's what right-wingers do all the time when they claim that it's okay to murder people or to do various bad acts because, oh, well, the Bible says it's okay. Like, there's a lot of right-wingers that justify slavery still because the Bible says slavery was okay.
So radically and so quickly without recourse to some other force in the universe. And I don't believe it because Jews believe, unlike Zoroastrianism, where there are two gods, a good God and a bad God, where there
Oh, so he knows of Zoroaster. I wonder if he understands the influence Zoroastrianism had on the Hebrew tribe. Like the cup of fire that the Zoroastrians use is the same as the holy anointing oil that the Hebrews used to commune with their God. And it was just a bunch of drugs. That's all it was. People were getting drugged up and thinking they were talking to God because they were stoned out of their mind. And these people were pretty stupid as fuck. So yeah, they understood that, hey, if I consume these plants, I'll get a certain feeling. But they didn't understand that these feelings or these drugs can cause hallucinations, and all they were seeing was what the drugs were creating in their mind.
There is Satan is only in Job in the Hebrew Bible, and it only means
opponent.
Opponent, yes, adversary, yes.
But Dennis, Book of Daniel, you have the princes and so on. They have supernatural power. I agree with you. There's only one God.
Right.
But the supernatural powers higher than human powers.
So let me.
I have to explore that.
Let me riff on that for a second. So here's a way of conceptualizing it. Well, let's do this biologically again. So we could take something like anger or lust, and you might, like psychologists tend to conceptualize those as drives, or reflexes or instincts. It's a poor conceptual.
Yeah, like lust and stuff is a basic human drive, because lust helps the human population procreate, because you see something pretty and you're like, boom, I want to bang them. And that's not a god telling you to bang people. It's just human nature, because humans love to bang, just like every other animal that has sex for procreation. It's just, nature to bang and procreate.
And here's why, and I mean this scientifically. A fundamental motivational force that's transcendent, so it's shared by all humans, it's shared by all mammals, let's say, it's shared by reptiles for that matter, like it's archaic. Lust would be that, anger would be that, fear would be that, pain. Those are best conceptualized as personalities.
Has personalities? Like, what kind of personality does lust have, or anger, or hunger, or anything like that? Like, why do you want to humanize emotions to the point of, like, making them a being? And you're basically just going back to the Greeks and Romans and stuff like that, and claiming that all these natural forces and human emotions and stuff like that are gods and goddesses.
And why do I say that? It's because they have a viewpoint. They have a telos. They frame emotions. Like, the best way to think about anger is a personality, and you know that perfectly well. If you get very irritated when you're arguing with someone and you're possessed by the spirit of anger, it changes your perceptions, it changes your emotions, it changes your view of the future, your view of the past. It's a fragmentary
Yeah, being angry can cloud people's perceptions and stuff, but that doesn't mean that the spirit of anger or the god of anger is possessing you and making you angry. It's just how people react to situations that, annoy them or aggravate them or, cause anger or something. So it's like, trying to make all these feelings and stuff into, like, quote-unquote personalities or gods is really ridiculous and stupid. And it's funny how Jordan Peterson says he wants to do it all scientifically. Yeah, none of this is scientific. All you're doing is telling your opinion on some stupid fairy tale.
Personality that then takes over the whole. And then you could imagine that a malevolent subpersonality, so for all intents and purposes a demon, is an aggregate of those fundamental subpersonalities that's integrated in a manner that's very, very powerful and that partakes of that motivational force. Maybe you're angry and afraid and resentful and lustful all at the same time, and that's it.
Ooh, yeah, if you want to have sex and you're angry and blah, 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 you got a demon inside you. Yeah, I guess you gotta go have Jordan Peterson exercise that from you or something.
Like a very high-order malevolent spirit has got you in its grip. And there is a reality to that. Now, we wouldn't want to say that if we're going to reserve the term God for the highest possible unity, it's definitely not that. But it's certainly it's a transcendent principality, and it is a spirit and a personality.
But the way you framed that, Jordan, is still basically metaphorical, isn't it? This is still, you talk about being possessed, but the language. I mean, the tradition, certainly the Christian tradition has demons. Demons have agency.
But those demons are allied very closely to our passions.
Sure.
They're almost like a cosmic version of the local passion.
And there are certain ways.
Wow, this is just Christians don't like certain emotions and stuff, so they demify them and say, oh, you're a bad person if you experience this emotion, or you're a bad person if you feel this way. It's like when melancholy was one of the 7 deadly sins or 8 deadly sins, whatever, and they claimed being sad was a spit in God's face because you're throwing away God's gift of life. But it's like, yeah, people get sad, and to demonize that is just really idiotic, and it shows how stupid religious people are.
In which, through the kind of free agency of the individual, they could kind of admit they can conduct themselves in a way that makes them more vulnerable to those kind of external
Well,
agencies.
they open the door to it.
But would you accept that, Jordan? You would accept that there are, as it were, extrinsic sources that are going to operate on the psychological structures of an agent, in addition to the kind of cumulative weight of all the bad decisions.
It's microcosm, macrocosm. Yeah. You have to see the human person as a microcosm, and then these cosmic forces. So we are.
Okay. Was that what Jordan was setting out?
I think.
Yeah, you're comfortable with that.
So.
Okay.
Well, it is complicated too, because so imagine that you're possessed by an aggregate of these motivational states.
Okay. Well, because there you're saying motivational states.
Well,
so that okay.
Let me elaborate.
All right.
I'm curious, when Jordan Peterson was on benzos and had to go to Russia to go into a coma to get on them, what demon was possessing him to become a drug addict? Good question there. I mean, he got very depressed and didn't even clean his room, because he made videos where his room was disgusting, and he was like, oh, you gotta clean your room if you want to be a good person, blah blah blah. But it's like, this. So I'm just saying. Okay, so what drug demon possessed him, and how did he exercise that from him? This dude is still definitely on benzos and stuff.
One bit further though, because you could also imagine that there are culturally developed manners in which that aggregate has expressed itself. So, for example, let's take the Columbine killer, for example. So I read his writings, and I put myself in his position, let's say, that brooding position on evil. So he allowed himself to be possessed by a set of motivational states, one of which was certainly covetousness, certainly resentment, hatred, powerful dark motivations. But the manner in which that manifested itself also had a culturally conditioned element, right? I mean, there's a satanic element to it that's like, it's like satanic in the poetic
kind of mimesis of malice.
Sense. Exactly that. Yeah. And you see this, you really see this with the mass slayers, because they compete with one another. So there's a subculture of high school shooters underground, and they know of each other, and they...
There's a subculture of underground school shooters that go on a forum and, decide how they're going to do their shooting. No, dude, Jordan Peterson, you're so fucking stupid. And for the most part, a lot of these school shootings are done by right-wingers who are racist and hate various people, so they go to a school and shoot it up because they want to kill people. And it's not because there's some underground forum about it.
Try to outdo each other, and so that's a mimesis
of sorts. But Jordan, would you go one further? I mean, you're going individual, cultural, microcosm, macrocosm. Would you go natural, supernatural?
Well,
I think that's still a distinction between the way you put it out, Jordan, and the way that...
Okay, well, but then I would also say, this is where it gets very complicated, is that malevolence that's a combination of bottom-up biological motivation and then cultural elaboration,
cultural
also
effects.
a reflection of some cosmic form.
I would say...
Okay, so they're claiming like violence is really bad and you're evil if you commit violence and stuff. Okay, so in the Bible, God commands people to slaughter tens of thousands of people in various other cities and stuff that didn't worship God. Does that make these people evil? I mean, technically it does, but according to Christians like these people, those people would be considered godly because God told them to do it, and anything God tells people to do is automatically good because God is always good.
I think it is.
Okay, great. We're agreed. Okay.
Wait. You're not agreeing.
I am agreeing.
I was agreeing with you because you weren't agreeing with him.
I wanted to tease out...
I'm curious, is agreeing with people, does that mean you're possessed by a godly being or something, or what? Because it seems like if you're angry, you're possessed by a being, but what if you're happy? Are you possessed by a different being? And it's just funny how these people think that they don't feel their own emotions. It's something else that's creating their emotions for them. These people, like, what, think like they're puppets or something? I mean, technically they are in a sense, but God, they're just so freaking stupid.
Well,
I don't understand. How is it? Wait.
Well, I think it's
we don't produce anger. We don't produce lust. They're outside of us.
No, we're not saying that.
Well, I thought then I don't understand what's being said.
I mean, a simple.
Yeah, well, that at least Jordan Peterson is saying that humans don't produce their own emotions. It's just some outside force controlling them like a meat puppet.
Way to say it is that anger in you is similar to anger in Stephen or in me, and because it's similar, there's a being that's a. It's hard to.
Anger
Wow, because people experience emotions similarly, that has to mean that there's some kind of supernatural being creating this anger. It's like, where is the actual logic in these people? But there's none, because these people are stupid religious nuts who think that their fairy tale Santa Claus is, like, incorrect.
Even if you die.
That's right. There's a good way to say it. That's right.
Right. Anger is something that grips you. And so it's got a reality that transcends you.
Then how do I control it? Why am I responsible? If I act out evilly in anger and anger controls me, I have an excuse.
Well, my answer to that would be
it's the bottom up and top down thing.
I don't know exactly what to say about that, apart from the fact that there are other forces within you, including you, that give you the ability to control it, even if it has.
Funny, I don't know what to say to that. I don't know how to explain away the fact that, oh, if you're being possessed by other people, it's not your fault for the actions you do, blah, blah, blah.
Some autonomy of its own. Like, you don't have to give yourself over to anger, even though it beckons to you. You know, and you remember in the story of Cain and Abel, you think about how that sets itself up. So Cain is resentful and bitter and angry. And the reason for that is his sacrifices are...
Hey, here's a question, okay? So there was Adam and Eve, and then Cain and Abel. And then if you want to include all the, like, extra children that they don't even name in the Bible, where did Cain find a woman in the land of Nod? Like, the Bible claims that there's already other people existing outside of the supposed Garden of Eden, and so it's like, if there were already other people existing, it obviously means that this story is fake, and if you want to claim that the woman that he married was one of his sisters, then that just means that Christians really love incest.
Rejected. And then sin sits at his door, like it's externalized as a tempting spirit, and he has to invite it in. You know, it's the same idea in stories of vampiric possession, is you have to invite the vampire through the window.
Yeah. So Jordan Peterson believes in vampires? That is hilarious. Yeah, dude. Vampires exist and they're sucking people's blood.
So I would say you can open yourself up to this possession or decide not to do it. And there's an element of free choice in that for sure. And this is why God calls Cain out. And the Cain and Abel story is very ambivalent in some way, because it isn't exactly obvious why God rejects Cain's sacrifices. And I love that about the story.
Yeah, God loves everybody, but he has his personal favorites, which is pretty wild.
Because people fail in life, and it's not exactly obvious why. And they get bitter and resentful about it.
Oh, so did God fail in life?
And then you might say, well, does that justify, because they're hurt so badly, because they've failed, does that justify their vengefulness? And the Cain and Abel story says, no. It sets them up for it. That spirit of sin approaches them, but they still...
So now sin is a spirit? Like, what isn't a spirit towards these crazy religious nuts? Is there like a spirit of football and soccer and stuff like that? A spirit of beef?
They'll decide whether or not they're going to open the door.
Doesn't it say that he brought an inferior sacrifice?
Yes, but
so
it
does explain why God preferred
no, it doesn't
Abel's.
exactly say that, Dennis. It says that Abel's sacrifice is of the highest quality.
Yes.
And it implies that Cain is lesser, but it never really explains what he's doing wrong.
Yeah, it's just a stupid story, and the idea that, you know, God liked one over the other was just a narrative tool to push the story further forward, so that they can then punish Cain for some dumb bullshit.